Sex trafficking, discovering and mending the problem within the United States. Striving to obtain a world without slavery is not something one could imagine being discussed within a country as free as the United States. However, this statement is becoming more real due to the growing industry of human trafficking. The Polaris Project is an organization in the United States that combats all forms of human trafficking and serves both U.S. and foreign citizens. According to their definition, human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery where people profit from the control and exploitation of others. However, for this argument, the focus is going to be solely on sex trafficking within the greater problem of human trafficking. Sex trafficking, as defined by public law, is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for the purpose of a commercial sex act. It was in the year 2000 that Congress determined, after their research findings, that there needed to be a federal law enacted to deal with the growing problem of trafficking within the United States and into the United States from other countries. This law is titled the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. The purposes of this act, as defined by law, are to combat trafficking in persons, to ensure just and effective punishment of traffickers, and to protect their victims. Since trafficking was addressed as a national problem, there have also been steps taken at a local level to implement this law effectively. In March of 2011, an article in the Colorado Independent was published discussing Senate Bill 85 and the effects it would have on the state of Colorado. It was passed as a bill that would give victims an avenue to get out but punish those who create the demand. Also under this bill would be fines given to those who solicited, pandered, or patronized a prostitute, and special schools were established for any traffickers who were first-time offenders. Senate Bill 85 is a step in the right direction of implementing a law that has been proven to work and has issued consequences for those who have broken that law. However, as is the case in Larimer County, laws have been set, but they are not useful unless traffickers and cases of trafficking are discovered effectively. Currently, the Larimer County Sheriff's Department is active in crime prevention, as any police department should be, and offers a variety of resources for victims of crimes to receive help if something cannot be prevented by the police force. While many of their victims' services cater to victims of sexually related crimes, there is no specificity regarding sex trafficking. The proposed solution to address this concern of lack of specificity toward the growing issue of sex trafficking is to have the Sheriff's Department financially support a specialized group to focus on uncovering more cases of sex trafficking by building awareness of the issue at a local level. According to the official website of the FBI, in 2003, the FBI, along with the Department of Justice Child Exploitation and Obscenity Section and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, were able to launch the Innocence Lost National Initiative. It goes on to say that since its inception, there have been about 1,800 children rescued and over 800 pimps convicted. This proves that when law enforcement is proactive in regards to such issues, positive effects can be achieved, and this is not a far-fetched idea for local law enforcement. Preventing crime, community safety, and victim restoration are the three overarching reasons of why this proposal is practical and attainable for the Larimer County Sheriff's Department. Preventing crime is the foundational aspect of this proposal because it is the aspect that is hardest to control, especially within this industry. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office official website opens with a defining statement of who they are as a group. One agency, one mission, public safety. With this statement, the conclusion can be reached that the Larimer County Sheriffs are in business for their people, not for themselves. Preventing crime within the community is an essential aspect of achieving the overall safety of the public, and the prevention of crime cannot occur unless the crime is known that must be prevented. The Human Trafficking Reporting System, HTRS, is an organization that was designed to measure the performance of federally funded task forces. Between January of 2008 and June of 2010, they launched an investigation of 2,515 suspected incidents of human trafficking. They discovered that 8 in 10 of the suspected incidents of human trafficking were classified as sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is a crime that still continues to exist, and the statistical evidence is proof of that. The study also discovered that federal agencies were 29% more likely to lead a labor trafficking investigation over a sex trafficking investigation, which was only 7%. What is not matching up in this scene is the fact that the crime obviously exists, but yet knowing the existence of it is not prompting the necessary investigation. Crime tends to go unnoticed or unrestrained because there is a lack of awareness. The Polaris Project solidifies this claim with its emphasis on the fact that oftentimes massage parlors serve as a cover-up for a brothel house where women are forced to provide commercial sex to customers. While there has been a hotline created for people to call when they want to report cases of prostitution, the hotline can only be effective if these places and pimps are known either in the community or among authorities. Congress discovered that profits from the trafficking industry contribute to the expansion of organized crime in the United States and worldwide. The knowledge of sex trafficking being considered a crime is known, but where it occurs seems to remain a mystery. A group known as the Truckers Against Trafficking, a branch of I Empathize, has created a way in which citizens can become aware and educated of what happens at truck stops. They provide videos that serve as training for truckers to realize the dangers young women face and how to be able to prevent that lifestyle for them. Crime prevention must first begin with awareness, which can be achieved by avenues or groups in which this information is shared. Preventing crime will not only make the county a safer place, but it will also help to offset any vulnerability that victims may already be susceptible to based on their upbringing. Karen Hoover, in her senior thesis titled Determinants of Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking and the Urgent Need for a Global Cultural Shift, suggests that the background of child victims often contributes to their vulnerability. Hoover uses a statistic found from the Invisible Youth Network that states there are over 1.5 million runaway and homeless teens living on the streets currently across America. She uses this to then later imply that since those children had felt neglected at home, they were then looking for a way to feel wanted and desired, and found that in pimps. Children need to be cared for in some way by someone, and if they are not receiving that from within the close ties of a family, the community must then take on that role. If the Larimer County Sheriff would implement the proposal to assist the prevention of crime, these children, who already have unfortunate situations, will not be led farther down a dark, hopeless path. Crime prevention has a direct link to the community's perception of safety and to their actual safety. If crime is effectively prevented, then those living within the community will feel protected and valued by those in charge of the community. When referring to community safety, it is implied that safety includes women and children, not just men. Community safety can be achieved in numerous ways, such as an educational program targeted toward a specific audience. I Empathize is a child advocacy and media movement that creates and collaborates with grassroots solutions that impact vulnerable and victimized children. As a nonprofit organization, they have responded to sex trafficking by launching a program titled Empower Youth, which is designed to teach students and teachers how to recognize and respond to teen trafficking. Programs such as these are willing to take the step to educate and assist youth in preventing this from happening to them or their classmates. According to findings from the Human Trafficking Reporting System, 1,016 out of 2,515 incidents investigated involve the prostitution or exploitation of a child. The innocence of a child is something that can never be taken back once it is stolen. And like the Empower Youth program, the Larimer County Sheriff should work to protect and preserve the innocent as long as possible. However, since the program is powered by a nonprofit organization, they lack the necessary funds to be able to make a lasting impact. In 2011, the U.S. was only allotted 13% of their $211 monetary budget. In order to conduct the Empower Youth program, I Empathize will need $27,500 of donations. This is where the Larimer County Sheriff's contribution comes into play, since their annual budget is around $40 million. If this can be a program that is supported by the state and can become recognized as an issue that the community values, then funding should be easy to obtain. Women and children tend to be the target of this industry and often remain stuck but since this is America and we are founded on the fundamental right that every person should be treated equally, their safety should be just as valuable as the safety of anyone else. As Congress was beginning to propose the Trafficking Victims Protections Act in 2000, they discovered that traffickers primarily target women and girls, who are disproportionately affected by poverty, the lack of access to education, chronic unemployment, discrimination, and the lack of economic opportunities in their countries of origin. Assuming that this is still accurate, there is a need for education among women on what to be watching for with regards to the demand culture of this industry. Empower Youth is a practical way for younger and older women to become knowledgeable that these kinds of things do exist, even in a county that may appear to be safe. Women and children not only face psychological repercussions of being trafficked, but could also be at risk for things such as unintended pregnancies or STDs. A barrier to safety is often the fact that the victims are not able to recognize that a man they may love is a pimp, and therefore the women have no desire to get out of the situation. In a presentation titled Psychological, Legislative, and Systematic Barriers to Prosecutions of Child Sex Traffickers, given at the University of South Florida, Joan A. Reed describes this idea as flashes of affection. Reed describes it as a grooming or breaking process in which there is a mix of reward, punishment, and trauma bonding between the victim and the trafficker. Women tend to become susceptible to these types of affection because of their deep longing to be loved, and traffickers are able to capitalize on that situation since many women have little knowledge about what trafficking may look like. Being able to educate women on signs to look for, such as what Reed mentioned, would serve as an effective deterrent within the community and can contribute to not only the police force looking out for their safety, but the women and children looking out for their own safety. Once the police officials begin to discover and help victims of sex trafficking crimes, the avenues that have been put in place to provide assistance to acclimate them back to their normal life can be used effectively and efficiently. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office instructs victims of crimes to contact their nearest law enforcement officials. Along with that, they list additional services where help can be found to cater to the specific crime that a victim has undergone. The main avenue of support that has been established nationally is called the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, which is the central national hotline on human trafficking, according to the Polaris Project. This serves as a toll-free hotline that will answer calls from anywhere in the country, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, but emphasizes that it is not a government agency, law enforcement, or immigration agency. Since the NHTRC is adamant about the fact that they do not enforce law, rather they just provide counseling and resources to seek help. This is evidence of a deficiency that law enforcement can fill by funding a project that will enforce law and put traffickers in jail. One specific organization that has based their sole focus on assisting victims is called the Sexual Assault Victims Advocate Center. According to their website, SAVA strives to provide crisis intervention, advocacy, and counseling for all those affected by sexual violence and provide programs through community outreach and education. This is a perfect example of a specialized group that focuses on helping women who have been directly affected by sexual crimes. SAVA, however, only focuses on victims of sexual assault rather than women or children who have been victims of sex trafficking, proving that there needs to be one further step taken in order to cater to those needs. This could be a group with women who have suffered and survived the sex trafficking industry and would know how to specifically respond to the needs of those who have recently experienced it. It is obvious through the efforts of nonprofit organizations and non-governmental businesses that the community cares for those who are dealing with severe repercussions of sexual crimes, and those need to continue to thrive in order to achieve the desired outcome of ending sex trafficking. As a law enforcement agency, the Larimer County Sheriffs have the capability to carry and sustain a project such as this. Victims are a crucial aspect to focus on when dealing with situations such as this, because once they have reached the restoration phase, it is now up to them to determine how they will shape the rest of their life and maybe even have an influence in the lives of other victims. The conclusion then can be drawn that with the implementation of the proposal of a specialized group that will work to counter and discover sex trafficking areas within Larimer County, there will be an increase of crime prevention, an increase of community safety, and an increase in usefulness of victim restoration efforts. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office has examples of nonprofits and FBI initiatives that have been successful in this arena to follow after. If they are able to take note and realize the saving potential that they hold within this industry, then law enforcement can become a huge driving force in running pimps and sex trafficking hubs into the ground rather than keeping them underground. There is no reason that the Sheriff's Department should be predisposed to a solution like this any longer, because it can only be used to benefit the morale and trust between community members and the police, and can also be used to save lives.